Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the panelists for attending today's hearing, and I look forward to your candor and perspective on personnel policies. And, we want to assist you in whatever way possible, whether it be resources or authorities. My first question, gentlemen, is in many cases where a service member reports that they have been the victim of sexual assault, service members can face severe punishment or a less than honorable discharge if they are found to have engaged in some form of collateral misconduct, like underage drinking or fraternization. Punishing victims for collateral misconduct has many negative consequences, and it represents a significant barrier to reporting of sexual assault in the military. Do you agree that collateral misconduct and the threat of punishment for it represents a barrier to sexual assault reporting? And how can such barriers be lowered or mitigated? And would immunity or deferral of action against punishment for collateral misconduct potentially help with increasing the instances of reporting of sexual harassment?
Senator, that's an important question, and from the Marine Corps perspective, commanders do have the ability to defer some of the charges, but to the larger point, I think that's something we can get back to you as far as from the legal standpoint on what exactly the specifics of what can be deferred, what cannot be deferred. But I fully agree. We're agreeable to anything that will increase reporting and expose some of those issues.
Senator, ma'am, I think it's case dependent again, but in general, reporting tends to be independent of what eventually ends up being the method of accountability and the specific charges an individual is going to be held accountable against. And those specific charges that end up being the ones that a particular commander, each commander is going to be advised by a trial counsel, a prosecutor, if you will, in civilian terms, that's a specialist in general in sexual assault prosecution. We're going to use every tool at our disposal to hold that individual accountable so that they don't walk. That's what every commander is going to do. So if if there is a sexual assault related article that they can be held accountable towards with a reasonable expectation of success, they're gonna use that charge. But reporting and then prosecution are two different things, I think, in general. So the reporting I see is unrelated, but I may be misunderstanding your question.
I think you are. What I'm asking is for the average troop sailor who is the victim of sexual harassment or sexual assault. One of the things that can happen is that the perpetrator is saying, well, yeah, but you were drinking underage. If you report this, you're going to be prosecuted for underage drinking, or you're going to be prosecuted for fraternization. And that threat itself, the validity of that threat, will prevent that victim from reporting. And is there any move towards some sort of ability to, lower those barriers, such as immunity or deferral of action, so that the average troop knows, even if you were underage drinking, you need to come forward and report, because we're not going to pursue that, and you're not going to get a other and honorable discharge because you reported this, not because of the sexual assault reporting, but because of the underage drinking.
Yeah, Senator, I'll add into that discussion. We do think there's a barrier there. We do think that inhibits reporting, and right. And so, as General Rocco said, any chance there is to increase the reporting, we're for. So, at our U.S. Air Force Academy, for instance, there's already training ongoing with our commanders and folks out there that talk about deferral of punishment and sort of immunity, if you will. Maybe not in those words used, but to allow the folks to come forward and report, knowing that there wouldn't be the focus will not be on the acts that occurred by the member, but on the actual perpetrator. We're trying to bring that into the rest of the force as well, and I do think there is a case-by-case discussion of those kind of things, but we recognize that, and that's ongoing to make sure that we can increase reporting.
Thank you. I don't have very much time left, but if you could answer for the record this question. The greatest fighting force on the planet needs the most talented people. From cybersecurity to medical services, reports indicate that the services are facing an increasingly smaller talent pool and must compete with a robust job market. This difficulty coincides with increasing demands placed on the U.S. military. And last year, for example, Secretary Matters established the Close Combat Lethality Task Force, which identified the need to recruit and retain service members specifically for close combat infantry. How are you adapting your recruiting efforts within this environment to meet the personnel objectives of department initiatives such as the Close Combat Lethality Task Force? And are there additional authorities or resources that you might require in order to become more competitive within today's job market? And if you could do that for the record, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.